Hey, brassfacts here. It's time to talk about night vision culture. Most of you are probably going to think, oh, we're going to talk about some neat aspects of night vision acquisition. We're talking about drama.
It's 40 minutes?
It's a forerunner!
Also, why is Lucas still wearing Swordens? What are they paying him? What's his loyalty to fucking MSA? They aren't even any good. Let's get some context like a grown-up.
For those under a metaphorical rock, the short of it is this. T-Rex Arms, or Lucas from T-Rex Arms, probably one of the single most influential people in the firearms space, recently got into retailing night vision. Cool, no problem. But presently he's getting a bit of a flack for targeting night vision culture, or goon culture specifically, calling it quite literally queer, cringe, whatever. And then criticizing the type of person that takes photos in front of a gas station or Wendy's parking lot.
It's a status symbol if you own a night vision device of some sort. And it's been interesting seeing the last few years, folks will go out and acquire a set of night vision, and rather than training with it, rather than going out and learning how to properly use their device, they just go to their local Wendy's and do a little photo shoot. They go to the gas station parking lot. We've all seen it.
Being positioned as one of the dominant figures in the space, people are now piling up on both sides of the debate aisle, if we want to call it a debate. Myself and Hop had a impromptu talk where we legitimately tried to discuss the whole situation, both sides, you name it. I even actually hit the record button this time, but when I say this was impromptu, I really mean it. We spent more time talking about Hydralisk from Starcraft and how it sounds like munching on an apple. Oh, juicy! And how incredulous Hop was that I ran off mid-discussion to put an egg in my cooking soup. Today we're gonna get the Brass Facts abridged version. Just wrote this up this morning, so if it's a bit rough around the edges and unpolished, it's probably because I'm making up huge chunks of it as I go. Anyway, so goon culture, what the hell is it? Why is T-Rex Arms so outspokenly critical about it? Night vision and firearms in general, like say weed, shoes, cars, and beer, can be taken to its utter extreme to produce something like a stoner, sneakerhead, patrolhead, and frat boys, all of which generally have somewhat negative connotations. In this context, night vision is taken to its extreme to produce quote-unquote goon boys, where it isn't just a tool, but it's what defines that person, very often, once again, in a negative manner. How often have you heard, you don't got L3 white Foss? Wow, you're trash. Only a PVS 14? Don't you know dual tubes are a thing? You've heard it all. And if you haven't heard it, you've certainly seen them on Instagram as they peacock feather their personality-defining product to the world, showing them using it constantly in the day, dusk, on the shitter, and everything in between, strangely with a distinct lack of shooting. And then when the scenery gets boring, that not-so-metaphorical Wendy's parking lot, which is conveniently lit for photo shoots at night, while being proximal to every American home, rears its head. All the while, forgetting that the whole point of night vision is to do things in the dark. This doesn't just apply to envy, but envy is a good boiling point for the topic at hand. But we see this in general, micro rigs, macro rigs. Does anyone remember how Triarch was everywhere?
And now we're in that sort of scenario where, like, yeah, hype culture, drip culture, drop culture, whatever, all this thing where people like, check out these fucking $800 Nike shoes, they're limited edition. Like, they want to do that, but they don't want to be seen to be doing that, so they got to find something else they can. Nods. CAC.
Yeah. Okay.
Stop def. 100%. There are people who, like, their brand or whatever is like, I've got a fucking bump helmet with DTNVs on it, and then what do I do with this with? They don't shoot at the range, they don't go on like night hikes or anything. They go through a Wendy's drive-through with their nods on. They're like, look at I can just casually drop $10,000 on a weird hat. I live with my parents, I work a delivery job or whatever, but I've got disposable income, so I can drop $6,000.
And these guys are guilting.
And then they're guilting. They're basically like, they're saying, look at all the fucking night vision that I've got. The benefit, the potential benefit to your preparedness of having night vision is huge. These guys haven't benefited at all. They've just wasted $10,000 on a fashion accessory.
And that's ultimately what Lucas from T-Rex Arms is trying to say. Maybe, I don't know. He seems to often make a habit of saying just enough to piss everyone off, likely to ensure snappy, punchy delivery and production, but sometimes it falls a bit short of applying nuance, so who knows what he's actually trying to say. But in theory, if we give him the benefit of the doubt, yeah, there's absolutely a toxic element at display here, drop culture, needing to have the newest drip, cutting-edge gear purchasing, gear trends, and chasing of that cycle. So, while everyone does have the right to do with their money as they please, others are also free to criticize it and condemn it, which is what's happening here, right? So, Lucas vindicated, totally right? Maybe. Okay, I don't really have the answers. I'm just some dumb fuck with a mic that gets less views in a month than he does on a Sunday. But I'd like to offer an alternative angle here. The whole night vision goon culture criticism is ultimately just the typical mantra you hear from every single YouTuber. None of this gear matters unless you get out there and get some training. Which, absolutely true. This push for training has moved the firearms industry from something that typically viewed tactical gear as extremely cringe near universally not that long ago, to something that is not just accepted, but now that gear is considered mandatory. But I want to still do a little bit of pushback because I think this latest round of shaming risks going too far. Let's be honest here. Typically, most people that are actually serious about firearms have fundamental manipulations down, will not kill themselves when they go to the range, in theory, and most will do okay when prompted with an impromptu drill. They have an acceptable baseline of skill. Certainly better than it was 10 years ago. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. There's a lot to do, a lot to learn. But the repeated push or guilting or bullying to get others to push for extreme high-level competencies to hit these benchmarks that these influencers keep touting time again, I'm not sure that's something that can be done universally across the board and solved with simply don't buy that rifle, don't buy that WML, don't buy that new optic, go buy a case of ammo instead. Dude, 1 week of running is not going to get you on track for a half marathon. Getting a salad instead of a burger will not get you to lose weight. 1 box of ammo is not going to get you scoring 95s on a 25-yard B8 with a handgun. And hyperbole aside, honestly, neither will 10 boxes. To become a good shooter, to make this gear actually truly mean something, it takes a shitload of effort, dedication, fueled on the back of an incredible amount of ammunition and competitive drive to get quote-unquote good at shooting. In fact, despite what people say, some people might not even get better at shooting because people are not good at training themselves, because it takes time and effort on top of all this other stuff to learn how to train. That's why coaches are a thing, right? Most influencers do not realize they live in a bubble of privilege. Now, this isn't some wine sippy commie fuck stuff. We worked really hard for this bubble, but it's still a bubble. For an influencer that does this for a living, going to the range 2 times a week, the ammo, the guns, the optics, the gear, and most importantly, the time, it's all paid for. Because even if you're a C-tier micro-niche celebrity like me, that still has to pay for like 90% of my shit, ammo, for example, cost me $12,000 last year, and I'm on a track to repeat that. Every range trip still produces content for me. Content that eventually, through several revenue sources, will produce a positive ROI, if you're lucky. For everyone else, think about it. You gotta take one of your precious weekend days that are typically reserved by chores and catching up on the mental trauma of a 40-hour plus work week. And for some of you, where you work your second job or do schooling, you must now drive out probably 2 to 3 hours to commute because most of America doesn't have easy access to shooting. Then you have to pay for the privilege of shooting because most areas don't have free open areas to shoot. Then you get to train, let's say 3 to 5 hours, which, cool, awesome, that was the whole point. But it leaves out the part where shooting to improve actually kind of really sucks and isn't incredibly fun, is more frustrating at times, and extremely mentally taxing. So this was not a recovery day by any means. And that's ignoring the financial aspects. Your monthly ammo expenditure is probably going to be something that makes your grocery bills blush, which themselves are costing easily twice as much as they did 10 years ago, while your rent cost is more than ever and probably costs more than an average mortgage. But you can't afford interest on the down payment on your house because that whole situation is fucked. Your used car costs more than it did 3 years ago, and your salary isn't even keeping up with inflation. On top of going to the range a minimum twice a month, you now need daily dry fire sessions to get better. You're going to expect it fit and add and build upon preps, build a saving, all in the worst time in American history to be an American. So when I feel unmotivated to go out in 100-degree heat or minus 20 with wind chill, I still go because it's my job. For everyone else, nothing like that exists. You don't have to go. So then how, despite all of this, do we have such a large community from all walks of life, those still going, training, week after week, despite the deck being stacked against you? I assure you, it's not competitive drive. It's because it's fun. Why is it fun? Because our entire culture is built around a gun tuber show off cool guns, show how badass it is, show different gear in action. We can buy that gear, see how it does or does not change things. We can lust after whatever the new hotness is and then try it out for ourselves. It's fun setting up different gun builds for different scenarios. It's fun theorizing. It's fun taking super badass photos under NOS with the boys despite doing no shooting whatsoever. And it's low-key fun to brag about this shit online because this stuff is pretty damn cool. And training ends up being the ultimate expression of this. It lets the situation where you can use all this stuff in action. And that's what drives the majority of us. Is there utility here? Abso-fucking-lutely. All this stuff has alternate utility that allows us to use this gear in real-world scenarios should they ever come up. But it's not a soulless pursuit. That's not the only reason why we can consistently do this week after week. And anyone that says otherwise is delusional. And that's the answer to all this. It's not an influencer telling you go out and train and guilting you into training. It's gotta still be fun. That's gonna be what the driving force is for you to do this. We just came off of the biggest tactical surge in probably the history of, honestly, forever. And we're now in a time frame where it is easily one of the hardest time frames to meet bare minimum requirements of being considered proficient as a prepared citizen. Now it's more difficult than ever to have a universal, complete training regiment across the board to do all the things. Many are just relegating to pistol dry fire and the occasional short range trip. That's all that makes sense now. So if it takes an Instagram page with "we goonin" and meme poses flexing your nods in broad daylight, making fun of the poors while being a poor yourself, or yes, that metaphorical Wendy's parking lot photo shoot to prevent you from burning the fuck out and selling all your shit that isn't your concealed carry handgun and just completely leaving the tactical space behind, then so be it. Take a photo shoot in front of Home Depot if you have to. This assumption that 100% of the community needs to be pushing towards the razor edges of performance at all times is asinine and spoken once again from a position of privilege where the ammo is free, the range is close, and cash is actually a driving motivator for you to go out and train. There will always be a large percentage of any community that is just dipping their toes and getting comfortable, and here, getting comfortable with the inherent larpiness of this lifestyle. Some of these guys will one day, when the time is right, when they're mentally ready for it, financially ready for it, will make the leap and begin to take things seriously. But no one can really be bullied into making that huge commitment it takes to actually get good at shooting. It's a personal choice. I think it's a risk, a big one, to begin viewing people that do not train, that do not pursue excellence at this specific moment in time, as second-class citizens within this culture. We all started somewhere. Also, I think it's weird, as an aside, to assume everyone taking pictures in front of Wendy's don't train. Okay, whatever. I'm not a smart man, Drane. I don't have the answer. There is no answer here what the balance between, pushing people to train and understanding the inherent dynamic of this whole situation. I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle. That being said, yes, we should continue to criticize commercialization, the fashion culture that is occurring into our industry as it matures and expands, and we should absolutely cherish those that can push positive change in the community. This community used to abhor serious tactical training, but with the help of influencers constantly wearing full kit, Grantham comes to mind, the usage of military and tactical firearms and military LARPing has now become more acceptable than ever, even hip. We should still lightly bully those that do incredibly stupid things with the goals of being a better shooter. There are right and wrong ways, roughly speaking, to go about things. No, there is no justification beyond fun for that carry handle AR. No, black multicam has no practical applications other than skylining yourself as a tactical fashionista. And yes, I will laugh every time I see a Hydra mount on a full-length AR, and you should have been beat by your dad in your formative years if you fall into these trends. Bullying will continue until morale improves, as they say. But today, with this video, I wanted to offer a word of caution from my perspective. The memes, the drip culture, buying 4 different guns, cloning gear, chasing gear, bragging about not having a product, brand loyalty, internet personalities, min-maxing. All of this is a byproduct of the result when people are actually immersed in a culture. And that's not a terrible thing inherently. And we need to be careful not to attack that unilaterally.
Battle cruiser operational. Now we'll just do Starcraft impressions for the next 45 minutes and go to bed.
What's the science center? Yeah.
It's just a guy screaming in the background, but it's supposed to be like a ghost doing a flyby.
Oh, is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah. And then also in the background, somebody's playing a fanfare.
Wait, that's supposed to be an aircraft flying by?
That's supposed to be a flyby, I'm sure of it. Call the shot.
Ghost reporting.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I'm here. I'm gone.
Comlink online.
USDA selected.
USDA selected. FDIC approved.
Checklist completed.
Checklist completed. SOB.
SOB. Yeah, that's
so
where all the
fucked.
all the fucked
Yeah,
up
this
robots
looks
are.
like it. This is a
There's the one that
Goliath.
like blows his head off.
Being a YouTuber. Ah!
Fuck.
Shoots Krisky. Shoots Brassfacts. 10 out of 10 video.